Hello Pisces, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of August 2022. This reading will be for Pisces Sun, Moon, and Rising. So by all means, if you know your three major placements and feel so inclined, you can listen to any and all of the readings that apply, as each one of them may resonate for you differently. And as always, do keep in mind all of these readings are general in nature, so they're meant to apply to a more broad collective of individuals, which means there are a number of interpretations and not necessarily everything that comes through will make sense for you specifically. That's why I highly do recommend you take anything and everything that does resonate for you, whatever that inspires within you or however that connects to your personal circumstances. Keep an open mind to anything that might be helpful, and you can simply leave the rest. So Pisces, I hope you're doing well. I hope July was good to you and that you're having an amazing summer so far. I am super, super excited to be here with you today. So thank you for sharing this time and space with me. I'm very excited to take a look at the month of August, especially because in the spirit of Leo season, I have thrown the kind of structure of my previous readings completely out the window, and we're doing something totally different. So instead of doing kind of an energetic check-in, potential block, and solution, we're actually going to be focusing on your strengths this month. So this is going to be kind of like a pep talk from the universe of sorts. It's a little experimental, so it's going to be less structured and more intuitive. So that might mean it's a little bit unhinged or chaotic or disjointed at times, but I think it'll be fun just to do something different. So we're going to be talking about your strengths, what you need to know about yourself, your situation, some advice. So I'm very much looking forward to it. And I do have channeled messages to share with you. Normally I kick off the reading by sharing those first, but in the spirit of changing things up, I am going to be sharing those later on in the reading. So instead, we're going to jump right into your cards, get to the heart of your reading. And once I'm finished with a thorough read of your tarot, I will share your channeled messages, and then we'll follow up with a couple of affirmations and a final oracle card to help you to kind of seal the reading with a final piece of advice. So before I jump into your cards, I will share with you just quickly the kind of energetic impression, the vibe that I was picking up on as I was preparing for your reading. And it was really kind of interesting because I got the sense of clarity and like really either focusing on or appreciating your ability to take action. So like to plan or to execute. And I got this sense of like, there's like an immense sense of satisfaction to be gained by just like, making a plan, following each step, executing, and seeing that like each thing that you do is you exercising your will and getting you one step closer, right? So it's kind of like, whereas most people focus on gratification and like getting the end result, this is more about enjoying the progress that you make, with each step. And the funny thing is, it's like when I was trying to find an example to make this a little bit more tangible, the thing that came to mind was like building IKEA furniture. So you may be building IKEA furniture, but the idea was like, in a traditional sense, reading those instruction manuals and like finding all the pieces and putting it together, following those instructions intently is not necessarily the most exciting or glamorous thing, right? It's not necessarily something that's like, oh, super fun, can't wait to do that. But this is like the sense of like loving having that plan and those instructions and having like a clear cut way to like move through life and accomplish things. So it's like with every step-by-step instruction and every diagram that you deconstruct and every appropriate piece that you find, and like, the little Allen key screws that you're putting in, it's like feeling accomplished, feeling as though you are moving towards your end goal and being able to see something take form in front of your eyes. So it's like every little step, although it might not be exciting, you're seeing the impact that it's having on getting you toward your end goal. So there might be a big focus on having like tangible steps and having like an obvious physical representation of the work that you're putting in to get toward a specific goal. Or it might just be like really, really taking pleasure in your ability to like make things happen, even if though each little step is kind of like small. So that was kind of interesting. let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think that's it. So we'll jump right into your cards. So your oracle card for this month is TikTok. And I kind of feel, oh, excuse me, I just had a hiccup. I kind of feel like you guys have had this card before, at least within the last few months, like since I've been reading for you. So this could be a theme. But the thing that's really awesome about this is that with this month's kind of plan, this oracle card actually represents your strength for this month. So the energy that is highlighted for you, the kind of blessing or gift from the universe, if you will, that is going to help you kind of come into alignment, or is going to be something that you can take advantage of if you so choose, and that may have the ability to kind of impact your circumstances more greatly. So I kind of like the fact that it may have been a theme in previous months, but now it's kind of saying like, this is the month to harness this power, right? If you're willing to do that, if you're, and because there is a more spiritual component to this card specifically, it may or may not be something that you care to connect with, but I think that to approach it with an open mind and a sense of curiosity, you might be pleasantly surprised how things turn out. So what I will say is TikTok is all about timing, but most importantly, I would say divine timing. So the recognition that, you know, everything has its season, everything has its time, you know, things happen in the timing that they're meant to, right? So I think the trouble is that the way society kind of approaches the concept of time is that it's purely linear, and that we have a lot more control and a lot more influence on our environment and the way things go than we really do. So it's kind of a sense of like, you have a plan for your life, you set goals, you set milestones, you set like an age that you're supposed to accomplish these things at, and that's kind of like your guiding light, but it's also the measuring stick that you kind of like assess yourself by. And so the trouble that we can run into is that if you've got a very rigid, very linear, not super flexible concept of time and a timeline for your life and your goals and your accomplishments, it might be like a bit of a pipe dream, you know, like it might be ideal, but it's not necessarily realistic. It's not necessarily something that we can make happen, because a lot of life is outside of our control. And also, if there are important events that we're meant to experience or things that we're meant to accomplish, we don't necessarily get to decide when the appropriate timing is. So it could be that there are things that you've been working toward, or maybe goals that you had on your list that you haven't achieved yet. And so it's like, well, if I haven't achieved it yet, or if I didn't achieve it by my certain goal, my certain date, then it's like maybe, you know, maybe questioning yourself, maybe beating up on yourself that you haven't done enough, or maybe wondering like if it'll ever happen, or perhaps giving up on it. Those are all things that can happen. But this is saying like, those things could very well be meant for you and on the horizon for you, but it's just like you don't necessarily know what's best for you when it's best for you. So you might have an inclination as to what you're trying to work toward and what you're trying to create, but you know, we go through life to learn and gain experience and knowledge and wisdom. And the beautiful thing about the things that are meant for us, those those experiences, those gifts, those things that we're meant to connect with, that are ours, that will never pass us by, will never be withheld from us. But timing can be a little bit slippery, right? Because if ultimately there's a beautiful gift that you're meant to connect with, the important thing is that you are in the right position, you're in the right frame of mind, you've had the right experiences and the right growth to be able to recognize and appreciate and receive that gift and benefit from it fully. And that is often why timing can kind of be delayed. So it's not necessarily that it's a sense of failure or that something will never happen, but it's like it's meant for you, it's coming for you, but you are being prepared to get there and to receive it. And so the beautiful thing is, it's like that energy is very much highlighted for you this month. So for some of you, it could be a month where you're starting to see things fall into place in terms of timing, opportunities popping up, perhaps things that were on your list of goals that maybe were forgotten or put on the back burner, or maybe you you kind of disconnected yourself from, maybe they're resurfacing and opportunities to reconnect or to have those start kind of like taking shape are going to arise. Or it could be a recognition of the fact that like there's something on the horizon for you that you had like as a goal previously, and maybe you missed your mark or you missed your timeline, and now you're coming into achieving that or connecting with that, and you're coming to realize like it was actually a divine blessing that you didn't connect with that energy earlier, and that your timeline didn't pan out because you wouldn't have been in the appropriate place, or you still had a lot of knowledge to connect with. So it's recognizing that there's a reason for the timing of everything, and there's only so much control that we have. There are some things that cannot be controlled or coerced, right? There are cycles, in terms of like the natural world that we're not in control of, but it's recognizing that when you can lay down your goals, your agenda, your plans, your expectations in terms of what is going to happen, how it's going to happen, and on what timeline, then you're more open to just receiving, right? And to having the current experience that you're meant to have, to being impacted by that in the way that's going to be most empowering, which is ultimately just bringing you further into alignment with the very things that you want to manifest or connect with or create. And so this is trusting like everything is working out for you. So you could be coming into a deeper level of understanding and trust that divine timing is on your side, that things are happening in the timing that they're meant to. Maybe like the patience and the delay is starting to pay off. And you might be coming into a deeper sense of acceptance in terms of letting go of your ideas about time, right? Like not having enough time or it being too late. Because those things that are important to you, those things that are meant for you, they're not going to pass you by. The easiest way to block ourselves from connecting with those things that we want is to commit ourselves to too rigid and too unreasonable of an expectation in terms of how that should apply, because we don't ultimately know. We don't ultimately know the best path to our end goal. But if we're able to trust that we're having the right experiences and to stay in alignment and to be open to the way that life is unfolding, we're open to a lot of blessings and opportunities that we could never possibly intentionally create or connect with if it were up to us, right? Or that we could never possibly conceive. So it's like, life and the universe may surprise you if you just open up to what it's trying to show you and how it's trying to help you, and to trust that, you're getting to where you want to be regardless of what the timeline looks like. So yeah, I don't know how this might apply to you specifically, if there's something really important to you that you've been working toward achieving, or perhaps there were goals or timelines that had been missed previously and things are starting to come back around. But I do get the sense of like, the word that came to mind was almost like redemption, right? Not that it's a story of redemption, but you might feel like finally things are falling into place. And the other thing that I would say is, if you're able to kind of be flexible, curious, open, and adventurous this month in terms of like where the universe is guiding you, where your intuition or your gut instinct or your soul is kind of nudging you to go, you might connect with that kind of those opportunities for divine timing to help boost you, right? So it's like if you can kind of get out of your own way and release anything that's limiting you or blocking you, and then step into a more intuitive space, you could find that there are a lot of things aligning. Maybe there are a lot of synchronicities or like, fated connections or fated meetings, or like, things just kind of suddenly fall into place. But there's definitely a sense that if there are things that you've been waiting for, and if timing and kind of judging yourself and your worth or your ability to create the life of your dreams has been connected to time, that there's a sense of like that kind of making more sense, stepping into a little bit more freedom, and like being able to see how the timing of your life is working out for you. And then being able to lean into that when divine timing is bringing things into alignment and helping things to happen for you, right? Is being able to take advantage of that when the time has come and you can recognize it. So yeah, I would pay attention to any signs and and synchronicities and things that just feel aligned, because you're being supported. That's your gift for this month to a certain extent, right? So we're going to get your tarot cards. I'm just going to pull a bunch of cards. Like I said, not a lot of structure this month. So we're going to get a bunch of cards and I'm going to read them kind of openly. So I might jump back and forth a lot. It can be difficult to read cards when there's less structure because there's just more information, more ways to interpret. But I also kind of like not being confined by structure. It opens you up to new perspectives and new ways of kind of connecting with information. So I thought it'd be kind of fun. So your first card is the King of Pentacles. Your second card is the Devil. And your third card is the Queen of Wands. And at the bottom of the deck, you have Death and Rebirth. So we'll clarify these cards. We'll clarify these cards immediately. And then we'll just do a big read of the whole situation. But this could have to do with your career, like your job, your financial or material stability, and the things that have maybe motivated you to move forward in like your career. Like, I don't know, it's very interesting. I'll wait till we get your clarifiers before I do too much expanding. I keep getting a lot of cards just popping out, so I'll just keep going until I get one single card. So we'll clarify this King of Pentacles first. King of Pentacles is clarified by the Six of Cups. We'll clarify the Devil. Devil is clarified by the Six of Wands. And Queen of Wands is clarified by the Six of Swords. And at the bottom of the deck is the Seven of Cups. Oh, that's interesting. You've got all sixes on the bottom. You've got Six of Cups, Six of Wands, Six of Swords. The only thing that's missing is the Six of Pentacles. Very, very interesting. This is very much a middle of the road energy where you've been through a certain amount, you've put a certain amount of work in, and you're kind of in the thick of trying to navigate your way toward your end goal, right? So usually there's a sense of like clarity or needing to come to a new level of understanding or a new perspective to help you continue moving forward, right? Like, interesting. Okay, so with Death and Rebirth and the Seven of Cups at the bottom of the deck, Death and Rebirth is all about transformation. And the fact that in order to be transformed, like either to grow into a new and wiser version of ourselves or to step into a new energy that might be more aligned with where we're trying to go, we have to embrace the ending of what was. So the ending of something that might be connected to a version of ourselves or a job or an experience or a relationship that didn't necessarily serve us, or that we've outgrown, or that, you know, in staying connected to would only prevent us from being able to be transformed by the experience that we've had, so that we can step into something new, something that previous experience was preparing us to step into. And this is like a big picture energy, so it's kind of like a bigger life lesson. So you could have been experiencing that kind of energy for a long time in a number of different levels. And when it comes up with the Seven of Cups, it could be that you've had like a lot of different opportunities or a lot of different areas of focus. And this could be like, cups is usually related to like emotions, love, your relationships, your intuition, your happiness and fulfillment, like the things that fill your cup. But it could be anything, right? Because those opportunities could be connected to, you know, family, relationships, could be connected to your job. your home life, your, going on vacation. Like, it could be literally anything, whatever it is that makes sense to you. But there's a sense of having having like potentially a lack of focus or a lack of clarity on exactly what it is that's right for you. So it could be like, oh, maybe you have a lot of different skills, right? And it's a matter of figuring out like what skill is your strongest, or what skill or combination of skills are going to be most beneficial in, helping you connect to something that is fulfilling, right? If it's a career, it could be like, maybe you have a number of different interests, and it's like, well, I want to study this and I want to master this, and then it's like, well, I want to study that. So it's like, what is it, right? It's kind of like, if you want to be able to make the most of your energy, you can't have your energy scattered across like so many different opportunities, right? So it can be like having hesitation to make a decision on what particular cup of potential happiness and love and fulfillment that you want to focus on and move toward, for fear of either making the wrong decision or missing out, or feeling like it can be a hard decision to make, right? Because it's like that can be a lot of pressure to put on yourself. So it's kind of like, we can either avoid making a decision, or we can get caught up in like fantasies about all of the things that we might like to accomplish, or we can divide our energy between maybe too many opportunities. And so it just kind of like waters down the energy and the focus that we have, which means that we kind of tire ourselves out, and we don't necessarily get closer to seeing the materialization, like the end goal, right? So it's like, you've got all of these cups, all of these opportunities, but you don't necessarily get very far in moving toward them, let alone being able to see them come to completion if there's too many things on the go. So it could have been your approach to whatever it is that's going to be most fulfilling to you, your attitude, your belief, anything that might be limiting or confusing you or keeping you from kind of focusing on what that is going to be for you. Perhaps there was a major ending, like a death of that version of yourself, or perhaps you've come into a new understanding of what's going to be most beneficial, and that maybe the whole divine timing thing is impacted by just choosing one thing to confidently move forward with, and allowing yourself to have that experience, get what you need from it, and then saying like, hey, then maybe I'll choose the next cup, right? And it's like kind of like one thing at a time. So maybe that's it. Maybe you've been trying to do too much at once, and that's why the timing is being kind of delayed, or has been. But yeah, there's a sense of like letting go of this energy and being transformed in your approach. So it's like the opportunities are still there, but maybe the way that you relate to yourself and the world around you, the opportunities that are available to you, perhaps you've come to a new realization and you're ready to leave behind the methods that you applied that didn't necessarily work for you, or that wasn't maybe the most aligned, in order to kind of step into something new and say like maybe you're ready to kind of take more of a chance on yourself. But yeah, that's the underlying energy of all of this. And the reason that I say that it may have to do with your career, or your money, or your financial stability, or like vocation, or whatever it is that's going to bring you abundance and stability in the material world, is that the King of Pentacles is here. And the King of Pentacles, he's kind of like a master manifestor, because he understands that he's capable of taking solid, consistent action. He's very focused, he's very determined, he's hardworking, he's loyal to himself and his family and to his goals. And it's like, at a very basic level, it's like following the steps to get to where you need to be so that your goals can become manifest, right? They can become reality. And it's being able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, enjoy your stability in the financial sense. So whether that's your savings, whether it's, a stable career and good benefits, or maybe like a happily, like comfortable retired life, whether it's like, your material belongings or your home and family, there's a sense of wisdom around that. So it's like, you might have been focused You might have been focused on taking like really grounded, solid, practical steps toward your material success, right? So it's like, you know, you go to school, you get educated, you practice and refine your craft, and you follow like the very obvious steps to get there, and you put that hard work in, and that hard work brings you abundance that you get to enjoy. So that might be the energy that you have been in, and perhaps that's what you needed to get to this place where you're going to open up to maybe a more maybe like a less practical and tangible and more inspired kind of way forward. But it's connected to your past in some way, right? So it's kind of like the Six of Cups a lot of times is about like nostalgia, looking back, you know, childhood experiences, our environment growing up, the feelings, whether positive or negative, the things that were kind of ingrained in us that impacted us on an emotional level as we were growing up, and being able to kind of look back and reconcile. So whether positive or negative, sure, looking back on the past it can be fun or it can be helpful. Sometimes it can be harmful, but it's important to recognize that, you know, the past is the past. And when we recount the past, we connect to it from that place that we were in when we were a child, right? And it's like, obviously we've learned and grown and experienced so much since then. And so it's like, we can't possibly, like we have the benefit of wisdom and experience to apply to those situations that we didn't necessarily have. So we might oversimplify things like, oh, things were so much easier when I was a child, or even certain things that might have been impressed upon you or ingrained on you that you would never realize when you're a child. And now looking back on it as an adult, you realize that, you know, that was never really for you. It's not something that you align with. It's just something that you didn't even have the tools to recognize because you were just young. So it's kind of like there's a sense of being able to leave the past in the past and not try to cling to it or recreate it, but to honor it for what it was, to kind of connect with your inner child, to see what those experiences have to tell you, particularly the emotionally like loaded ones, and to be able to take your current wisdom and knowledge and apply them to the situation, reconcile the situation, and decide whether it was a positive or negative experience, what you're going to take with you, what you've learned, what perspective you have in terms of putting the pieces together, and how you're going to empower yourself to move forward because of that. So this could even be like your idea about financial or material abundance and stability in career, and how that's connected to like the way that you were raised, how it may even be connected to a father figure specifically. But yeah, you might be doing some reflection and possibly even some healing about like what it is that solid, you know, wise provider that is the King of Pentacles, how you identify with that energy, how you connect to that energy, your relationship to that material kind of aspect of existence, and you might be getting a new perspective on it. And so I don't know how that might apply to your specific situation, but I do get the sense that there's an opportunity for either a new perspective or perhaps some empowerment when it comes to acknowledging how you've been growing and how your connection to that energy has influenced you in the decisions that you've made. I don't know, you might be coming to some kind of full circle moment in terms of how you relate to material abundance. But the other interesting thing here is that there may, like when it comes to this, like what you experienced on an emotional level, what your environment was like, what your family structure was like, what your parents kind of went through, valued, expected of you, especially in a material sense, it might have weighed really heavily on you, right? And you might have become really, really distracted, or it might have played on your fears, right? And if it's playing on your fears, it might have influenced your relationship to the value of hard work and money. And you may have been tempted to just equate your worth and your value with like the job that you have, the money that you make, how successfully you can move up the ladder, or how quickly you can amass, you know, material fortune, or or like expensive belongings, or like how quickly you can like buy that house. Like it may have been a very materially based version of success that you were focused on. And so that could have played on your fears, because with the devil here, the devil is all about our material existence and how we can be tempted or seduced, to do things that aren't necessarily good for us, or that don't necessarily align with our values and what we're trying to create for ourselves, just because of like a purely materialistic kind of gratification, right? And so it's kind of the recognition that material gratification and those material forms of abundance and success, they can be really, really alluring, especially because our society really connects everything with that. It's like you need that to be happy. And so you may have kind of disconnected from your emotions and your intuition or what's right for you. You might have kept yourself in situations that were not necessarily, and this doesn't have to be the case, but there's a sense of feeling kind of powerless to those things that you are drawn in by. So it's like, how kind of like greed and that materialism, it can sometimes draw us in and corrupt us. And, make no doubt about it, we live in a material world, and it's natural to want to benefit from that abundance. It's natural to want to have savings. It's natural to want to have nice things or quality things, or, to move forward in terms of material abundance. But it's like, we don't want to become a slave, right? We don't want to become a slave to that need for more or the need to have enough. We don't want to set aside our morals and our values and the things. We don't want to sell our soul for that strictly material success, right? Because there's the idea that at a certain point, like if you fall into that trap, then it's like you kind of do become a slave to you're just, the puppet, right? And so the idea is, and especially for this to come up with the Six of Wands, there's a sense of like victory and recognizing your strength, recognizing your ability to overcome the things that you may be tempted to fall into, maybe potentially bad habits, right? And it doesn't have to be like tangible bad. It could be, thoughts, beliefs, or fears that play on you and your sense of worth that might sway you from doing something that really means something to you. And it's like, instead of doing what you feel is going to be most beneficial to you, you just go and do whatever is going to make you the most money. Because if you don't have enough money, you have a fear that you're not going to be accepted or you're not going to be valuable. So yeah, this is the way that this is our ability to manifest, but it's also like, it can go in the opposite direction. It can corrupt us. It can take us off track. And so sometimes, when it comes to those bad habits and those things that we can kind of feel compelled to do, even though we know it's not good for us, it's recognizing that we have ultimately the strength of will to align with what's best for us, to do whatever healing is necessary to overcome that. It's like kind of like a reclaiming of power and recognizing that you're not powerless, to this material existence. You're not powerless to this structure of success and the way of living your life that's going to dictate, how you do things. Like, you get to have a say. You're ultimately in charge, because the devil operates based on illusion. The only way the devil can influence you to do something is if you agree that he has more power, right? If you're afraid that he can control you or he can manipulate you, right? So it all has to do with your beliefs. And there's a sense of victory here. Like, you have power, you have the inspiration, you have the vision to move towards something that's going to be exciting. And it's kind of like, you may already be feeling victorious in the fact that maybe you're releasing, maybe that's part of your death and rebirth, is that you're kind of overcoming maybe like generational trauma or like that kind of programming that was handed down to you, that fear, when it comes to the material, your connection to material goods and prosperity and abundance. But either way, it's basically saying, like, whatever that is, whatever that temptation is, or those bad habits, or those things that are ultimately kind of taking your power away from you, disempowering you, disconnecting from your fire, it's like you're overcoming them. you're proving that you have the strength, you have the vision, you have the ability to take inspired action, and that is always going to be stronger than this realm of illusion and the promise, the empty promise that is held in just, pursuing solely material versions or ideas of success, because you're not just a physical body, you're a spiritual energy in a physical body, right? So it's kind of like, you're so multifaceted that you couldn't possibly be reduced to just your physical existence, right? And material accomplishments. And so you may very well be still accomplished and stable in a material sense, but this is kind of like, it's almost like a renewal of spirit and a reminder that it's like you're having a spiritual experience. You deserve to connect with your inspiration. You deserve to have creative outlets. You deserve to kind of stoke that fire, that like spark of enthusiasm, the things that really speak to you, that you really enjoy, that you're passionate about. And it's like, the more that you do that and lean into that energy, the more victorious you become. And you're not finished, right? But you're in the process, I think, of maybe overcoming these things that have had you feeling maybe like you're following someone else's path, or perhaps what you're really wanting is to find your own unique path and follow the calling of your soul, but you don't feel like you're strong enough, or maybe you've been led to believe that that's not a reasonable, practical way to live your life. So you've been shutting yourself down. But there's a sense of overcoming something that's limiting, especially as it connects to our material existence. And then what I love is that we've got the Queen of Wands here with the Six of Swords. And the Queen of Wands is like really, really encouraging you to like, to recognize that light, that spark, the things that call to you on a soul level that you feel excited about, that you get inspired by, that creative energy that's just kind of bubbling inside of you and is looking to have an outlet, right? So that it can be infused into your life. And the great thing is that that's your authenticity, right? That might be one of the most authentic aspects of yourself, because whatever that little spark is that makes you happy, it's going to be unique to you. It might not be something that anyone else connects with or understands, but it's invaluable to you. And the more that you recognize that and nurture it, and the more that you experience, success, and you can recognize, the way that that's kind of improving your situation, the way that may even be leading you to material abundance in the end, the more you can be confident and self-assured, not only in the importance of staying connected to and expressing that authentically, but the less concerned you become with everybody else and what everyone else is doing, everyone else's expectations, right? Because it's not about them, it's about you. It's not about society and the societal structures that are in place, or the expectations that we're kind of conditioned to worry about. It's not even about, even if this spark is something that you're interested in, that other people do or other people have mastered, it's recognizing that like it's important to you for a reason, and it's meant to have a unique expression through you for a reason. So anyone else who's doing it, it's not a problem. It's not competition. You shouldn't be worried about what they're doing or how they're doing it. And you shouldn't be worried about what you want to do or how you want to do it, because this is yours and they have their own, right? And it's their path to do their own thing. It's your path to do yours. And it's like you just become more confident. You become more willing to express yourself authentically, to share the things that you're passionate about, to take that little light and light up the world around you, right? To share that light with other people, so that people who are interested in what you have to share will be attracted to you, and so that you can align with people who are on a similar kind of wavelength, right? Like this light is only going to amplify, the more that you embrace it. And so it's like, she's happy, she's victorious, she's focused on her light, her passion, her inspiration. She's focused on how that's impacting her life in a positive way, and she's not dimming it, right? She's not dimming it for fear that she's not fitting in, or that people are not going to receive her well, or that someone else might do a better job. She's just here doing it because she wants to do it. It's just for the sake of her honoring herself, right? And with it showing up with the Six of Swords, it's like, I see you having the opportunity to come into a whole new level of confidence in yourself and belief in yourself, belief in your skills, the things that inspire you, the things that you're passionate about, the things that you want to create for yourself that are uniquely yours, that maybe you're afraid of expressing, maybe you're afraid are unreasonable, maybe don't fit inside the mold, or maybe aren't obviously connected to, you know, the ability to manifest material abundance, but it's like it could still very well get you there. So this energy, this confidence, this fire and enthusiasm, this new level of authenticity and embracing who you really are and what's important to you is giving you the opportunity to lay down beliefs, perceptions, thoughts that are not necessarily serving you, that may not be empowering, they may not be aligned, they may not even be true. Right? So it's kind of like you're at the point right now where there's a lot available to you, and there's a lot that you can connect with. And especially if we're talking about divine timing, where you might have opportunities finally falling into place that you had disconnected from. But in coordination with that is if you do have that divine timing finally kind of paying off, is you might still have some fears or reservations. You might still have some kind of residual stuff, you know, connected to your past or past experiences that are triggered or that come back up. So the sense that I get is it's like you might need to take a look back at like where you were when you set those goals, if things are finally coming to completion now or coming into alignment now. And it's like you might need to just leave behind whatever was limiting you, or whatever will potentially limit you from stepping into that energy, which could have to do with your fear or your ability to kind of maintain focus on like your inner strength, right? That you're not going to be taken advantage of. You're not going to fall victim to like self-sabotage or anything like that. So it's kind of like, you know, she's laying down her swords. She's looking for a new perspective, right? She's willing to connect with her truth, or perhaps just a different way of moving forward that's going to help her make the most of the opportunities and the energy that's available to her. So yeah, I think there may be a certain level of like letting go of things from the past that weren't necessarily serving you, and finding a new way to step into this confidence and to express yourself, right? So the things that are starting to line up might have to do with a creative outlet, or something spiritual, something that inspires you anyways, because it's like it's connected to your emotions and your happiness and love and fulfillment. It's connected to your thoughts and your perceptions and beliefs. Obviously, it's connected to your inspiration, your creative power, your enthusiasm, and it's also connected to some form of material stability. So it could be finding like the happy place where all of those elements, all of those skills and areas of experience kind of merge into something that's going to be really uniquely beautiful for you specifically. But in order to claim what is rightfully ours and meant for us, we have to have the confidence to connect with that and to allow ourselves to have that experience without fear, without limiting ourselves, and without worrying about anything that's going on outside of us, because like she's focused on her own stuff, right? So, oh my gosh, your reading is long already. I'm going to share with you your channeled messages for this month, and then we will get you affirmations and a final oracle message as advice to seal the reading off. So your first message this month, Pisces, funny enough, was heaven sent. So this can be anything. So I got the sense it's kind of like something that happens that's just, you know, synchronistic. Maybe it's a sign, a sense that like it's divinely guided, like divine intervention. So kind of like a gift that maybe is unexpected. So it's like something that comes through when you really need it, or in like a really unexpected and serendipitous way. But yeah, divine intervention. So it could be an experience, it could be a person, it could be just something working out in such a way that you're like, wow, that was like, it's almost like a spiritual like moment of realization that there's something bigger at play, right? It feels bigger than just the circumstance itself. And I would say, so it could be, yeah, just a situation where you feel like divine intervention, or it could be in relation to spiritual gifts. And so I would say, like, keep in mind any signs and synchronicities, keep an eye out for any way that you might be getting some guidance or validation through signs and synchronicities. It could be song lyrics, it could be actual like you know, quotes, phrases, repeating numbers, you know, chance meetings, that kind of stuff. So I pay attention to that because there might be a bigger presence of that in your life, and perhaps even, you know, if when we've got this idea of divine timing, that might be some validation for you. Like you might just have a lot more of that stuff coming through for you this month, whether you already pay attention to it or not. The next message that came through for you was musical chairs. So it could be literal musical chairs, like playing that game. I don't know if that would ever apply. I don't know how common musical chairs is. But so it could be that, or it could be like shuffling from place to place, being in a temporary position, maybe maybe holding like multiple positions or having multiple responsibilities at once. So it's like you've got to like bounce from this chair where you do office work to this chair where you're like doing customer service, and like, you know, kind of like the equivalent of wearing multiple hats. So, or it could just be like lots of movement, lots of action, kind of like maybe even feeling like a little bit chaotic. Like there's no real structure to musical chairs. It's just kind of unexpected. So that might be an energy that you just kind of have to stay open to, because it also might be part of this kind of alignment, right? Like with the timing being on your side this month. And finally, the last message that came through was energetic alignment. So that could be in terms of people, places, and things, the you know, the people that you spend your time with, your relationships. It could be in terms of your relationship to yourself, you know, bringing your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your beliefs into alignment, making sure that there's no like self-sabotage, and you're not like saying one thing but doing another, recognizing that you can make the most of your power when everything is in energetic alignment. So you might have to do some housekeeping and check in with yourself, you know, the things that you're saying to yourself versus the things that you really truly believe, or the things you're taking action on. Or it could just be your environment, your daily practices, the people that you're engaging with, and you might need to do a check-in and see, like, are the things that you're doing, the people that you're around, are they in alignment with what you're trying to connect with and who you are at your core? And so, yeah, I would say follow your gut and your intuition, because there might be some decisions to be made. And it's kind of like, if things are coming to fruition and if things, you know, divine timing is at play, it's a good time to do that kind of energetic housekeeping, because you don't want to be even subconsciously doing things to take you out of alignment with whatever it is. Like you don't want to be kind of blocking your blessings, so to speak. And you'll only be rewarded for connecting with things that are in alignment with who you are, what you want, and what you're trying to do. It's kind of like that's the only thing that you really have power over, or is within your control. So we are going to get to a couple of affirmations and one final oracle message. And that will serve as just some final advice for this month to help kind of tie everything together. Your first affirmation is, I'm at home in my body. So that could just be in terms of honoring your body, you know, the home that it provides you, all that it makes you capable of, coming into like body positivity or acceptance, if that's something that's a theme for you. Finding your center, right? Like connecting with your body, grounding yourself into your energy could be something that's also helpful. What else was I gonna say? There's something else that just occurred to me and I lost it. The fact that intuition may speak to you in a more visceral sense, right? In terms of like, it just made me think of gut feeling. So it's like the more in tune you are and with yourself, the more you're connected to your body and your senses, the easier it's going to be for you to be able to connect to that, the subtle information that it's telling you about, you know, your situation with, so it's like whether it's a feeling of lightness or heaviness, like your body holds wisdom as well. And your second affirmation is I am in harmony with nature, which I really love. So taking time to get out into nature, you know, maybe even doing some grounding exercises like get barefoot in the grass, go walking in the forest, taking time to connect with and appreciate nature, to be part of it. That might also be something that's really grounding and that helps you kind of stay in alignment, especially if you've got a lot of stuff that's, especially if you're working through past stuff, trying to find a new way forward, but also connecting with your authenticity, trying to allow the room for things to fall into place. That might just be a really good way for you to just kind of stay in your own energy, right? And not get too hyper in terms of, you know, emotions throwing you off or overanalyzing, that kind of stuff, if those are things that you tend to fall victim to. Okay, let's go. We're going to get you an oracle message. Oh, I like that. So your final oracle message for this month, your little piece of advice, is Priestess. How are you being called to step up and lead? So I like that. That's a very spiritual card as well. Okay, I'm just going to find the guidebook here and I will read directly from that and we'll see what it has to say. Okay, Priestess. The Priestess is a teacher dedicated to service, freedom, and leadership. You don't need to have it all together to lead. In fact, it helps if you don't. No one wants a perfect angel who hasn't made any mistakes. Let your life be your message. Don't underestimate the power of sharing your story. It's by hearing someone else's journey that we feel less alone. We realize that we're actually all in this thing called life together. The difference between a follower and a leader is that a leader has the courage to go first. In stepping out, they shine a light on the path for others to venture forward too. Don't fret too much about trying to work out who is your tribe. Don't get stuck in age, income, hobbies, or occupation. The best way to discover your tribe is to look in the mirror. If you feel called to lead, chances are it is because at some point in your life you longed for someone to lead you. Your tribe are longing for exactly the same thing, and might only be one step behind you. Hell, they might even be right alongside you. You don't need anyone's permission, just the courage to stand up. Embrace your struggles, the peaks, the troughs. You don't need to know the way, just believe that there might be a different one. Your tribe is waiting for you. Step forward so they can find you. And the Work Your Light inquiry says, how are you being called to step up and lead? And how can you be the leader you wish you had? So those are questions that you might want to write down and just take some time to ponder and connect on. Even if you don't do like a logical analysis, even if you just pay attention to your body, how you feel when those questions are asked, if there's anything like uncomfortable or restricting. But yeah, this is kind of like you are the master of your own destiny and destiny in terms of the way that you show up for yourself, right? So it might not necessarily be your ability to force things to happen in a certain way, like and a certain timeline, right? Because divine timing is at play. But the more that you step into your own energy and acknowledge who you are and allow yourself to claim that and express that openly, that is you exercising the power that you do have. And that's only going to be amplified, right? It's only going to help you. And it may be difficult because we have fears about if we do express ourselves truly and authentically and we do step up and lead others, even if we feel like, you know, we're not qualified to do so, it might feel scary and we might be afraid of judging. But it's knowing that anybody who doesn't align with you is just going to disappear, right? They're just going to fall away. Anyone who judges you is just judging themselves and their ability, you know, to step out and do what you're doing. So it's kind of recognizing that it doesn't have anything to do with you. And I really love it because that Queen of Wands, like being empowered, right? That's what she's doing. She's shining her light for others to see, right? And so you might feel like the things that you're truly inspired by and the things that are really authentically important to you might not be appreciated or well received. But I think that like if you're hiding them or if you're muting them or if you're focusing on other things instead, you might actually be already surrounded by people that are in that energy, but they just don't have the opportunity to see that in you and to share that with you themselves and to connect with you on that level, because there's not a safe space to acknowledge it, right? And the worst case is like if you express it and the people that are already in your life don't agree, then, you know, you have to kind of move on with the trust that stepping into your own energy and taking the lead and sharing your story, sharing your experiences does nothing but give people the opportunity to relate to you. And the people who do relate and who are looking for your leadership and your approach are going to gravitate towards you, and you're going to experience a deeper level of connection in that community, right? So that could be part of what's aligning for you this month. And your role is just to kind of confidently step into being yourself, which sounds, I don't want to oversimplify it, make it sound like it's easier than it is, but yeah, asking yourself these questions might be a really good starting point in terms of how you can lead and how you can be the leader that you wish you had, right? Because you might have the opportunity to take something that you needed in the past and to extend that to other people, and that might be healing for you, right? So maybe leading people the way that you needed to be led not only is going to be beneficial to other people, but it's also going to heal the parts of you that you used to struggle with. It's going to help you reconcile that part of your past experiences, perhaps. So there you go. You may be a healer. You may be healing other people just by being yourself and sharing your story. So Pisces, this is a very long reading, I'm sorry, but thank you for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to leave your reading here. If you did enjoy this reading, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, leave me a message if you can, like a comment, let me know how it resonated. Beyond that, if there's anyone you think might be interested in or might benefit from my readings, you can share my channel or my readings with them. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out my YouTube channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot, and ensure you're not only subscribed to the channel, but also sign up for notifications, which is that little bell icon. That will ensure you stay up to date on new videos as they're posted. And I'm hoping August might be the month that I can do a mid-month check-in. It's been something I've been hoping to do for a while and just hasn't panned out yet. So hopefully we'll see how that goes. But nonetheless, it's been a pleasure reading for you. I hope you guys have a beautiful month. And whether we reconnect later this month or not until next month, I'm very much looking forward to reading for you again. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.